All right, so I want to take a few minutes to show you some new features inside of Business Center Heavy Civil Edition. I'm actually working with the latest release, which is 3.4, which is, you'll find most of these new features I'm going to show you. Now, this isn't everything, but it's just a quick, call it a top 10 new features. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring in some points and going to drag and drop in the CSV file into my project. So I got some points to work with. One of the new features is or a couple of new features deal with points. So you can see here I've got some point objects that have been imported in. They're basically just a survey that was collected out in the field. And it's actually been collected so I can use my field to finish option and process these line codes. So I'm going to go ahead and process this. So now you can see that it creates a bunch of 3D lines connecting the points. This was a bad one, so we'll just go ahead and right click and delete it. But really, since we're talking about points, the first thing I want to mention is the point symbol. So by default for the last few releases, the circle is what you see for the points. Now what you can do is go to the drafting tab. You can select point symbol, and what you're able to do now is change the actual symbol of the points. So I can either do one point individually. So if I was to come in here and click on this option, and let's say that I pick this well, we can pick any one of these. You can see there's some standard symbols that ship inside the software. So let's say that we'll grab this target, and I'll click OK. And I want this point here to be changed. I can assign the size, and then I can just come down here and just pick on that, and you can see that that now takes on that symbol. I could also do a bunch of them. So instead of looking at the point as a circle, what I could do is select by multiple options. So if I'm used to looking at an X or a cross, I can select that and go to my options, select all the points, add that, and you can see that now they're all X's rather than circles. So pretty easy, pretty simple. You still have over here where I can turn off and show the features only. So if I was to do that, you can see that it's displaying my symbols, my manholes, water valves, stuff that was brought in when I did the field to finish. All right, let's go ahead and turn those back on, and I'm just going to do an undo to get back to my circles here. The next thing that we'll talk about is there's a new setting for autosave. So if I go to my options, I can get to that from support, go to options. On the project management, yeah. Under project management, I have the ability to come in and enable reminder, set it to 5, 10, 15, 30, or 60 minutes. If we set it to 5, it'll remind us every 5 minutes to save our project. So that's pretty handy. Also, something to point out under options while we're there. If I go to the startup and display, besides changing my colors and whatnot, you'll notice that I have this option here of turning on the CAD grips. We now have CAD grips inside of Business Center. So if I was to come in and draw a line, let's go to our CAD tab and select create line string. And you'll see I'm just going to give it a name. We'll call it walk. And I need to set it on a layer, so I'm going to pick layer, but I want to put it on the sidewalk layer or structure layer. So I'm going to click over here. You can see that it changes that layer to structure. I can do the same thing with these, which is kind of nice in Business Center. I want the color and the style. I'm not sure what it is. I can just pick it right from the drawing and it sets it. So when I click OK to that, and it's asked me for that coordinate, I'm going to come down and I'm going to start at this point. You'll notice that I have running O snaps as well, and those are controlled up here. All right, so whatever's toggled on is what it's going to snap to. So I'm going to snap to that point. It grabs the elevation, and I want to bring up this intersection. This isn't really a new feature, but it is something that I think a lot of people overlook, and has the ability to right click, and I want to choose intersection, and I'm going to choose intersection of segment snap. Ask me for first segment, second segment. If I pick this one and then this one, you'll see that it brings that little circle and it sets that as that particular point. Now when I come in here and pick that corner, I've drawn in that line string. All right. Now with that, if I was to come in, let me close this. You'll notice that when the line is selected, depending on which segment I select, it's going to add the grips. Now it's not adding grips to these because those were drawn by those lines. But if I was to grab this one, you can see here that I can take this grip, left click and hold, and I can drag it to a new location. I can come over here and we can drag it right back. If I grab the triangle, I'm able to move that whole segment accordingly. Okay. And do a Control Z, send it back, or an undo. If I had a piece of text in here, so if I was to go in here and let's go ahead and grab a text style, we'll put some Tahoma in there. I'll go ahead and say building. We'll put our insertion point. I'll drop it in here. You'll notice that when I select that, now I've got some different grips. These grips here let me change the thickness or the scaling of it. Okay. This grip here lets me move it around, and then this grip here lets me rotate it and orient it accordingly. So you can see I can easily move text around inside of Business Center now as well. A couple of little neat features I wanted to show and point out. They're not new, but they're I think overlooked. Actually, they are new. There's some new functionality in the measure command. So if I come in here and I look at this, let's kind of zoom in on here, and I go to my measure command up here, and I've got a couple different options. I can go 2-point, I can go sequential. You'll notice that it keeps a history of everything, my last options. So if I go from and to, I can choose 2-point or sequential or radial, but let's go from and to. So I'm going to pick the corner of this structure, and I'm actually going to snap down here to this point. And the reason I'm doing that is not only is it showing you in my plan view what my distance is from there to there, okay, and it's showing the horizontal distance in this case in plan view. If you look over in my 3D view, it's actually showing me my my vertical difference and my slope and horizontal difference. So if you have a 3D view up, that's real nice, you can look at. Now over here it's showing the results and is giving you all the information, even the azimuth, vertical distance, and the slope. If I click save, it's going to save it to it's basically a saved measurement, and I can choose whether I want it to display the horizontal slope or vertical difference. So if I was to pick horizontal and hit save, you'll see that it embeds that into my project, into my view for me. Now with that, another new feature is the ability to dimension objects. So if I go to the drafting tab as well, I have a dimension style creator where I can come in here and create different dimension styles. You can control the lines and arrows, the text, units, and position. So then I can go and either do a linear or angular. If I do linear, same idea as I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to let's snap to that point there. We'll snap to that point there, and you can see it's going to ask me for a location. Now I forgot to pick my style, so let's set that one. And now you can see that I can either choose that dimension, or depending on how my cursor is set, I can choose this one. So now I've got a horizontal dimension. Now I can go dimension the other options. And you can do that for angular as well. Now in addition with that, we have the ability to actually also label features, label lines, points, and polygons. So on the label style manager, I have the ability to come in here and create label styles. So here I'm labeling the distance and the bearing of the line, but you can come over here and choose the label type. You can also choose how arcs are set up. So you would set up all your styles for lines, points. So the different data that you can display for points is here, as well as even polygon label styles. So areas of objects and whatnot. If I stick with the lines for a second, Notice you can import and export these. So if you do create the styles in one project, you can export them to another project. That's what those are for. I'm going to go in, I'm going to label these lines, and let's just label, I'll label this one here, and let me choose, okay, standard's fine. So I'm labeling, oops, let's label these. Alright, so you can see my bearing and distance in there. If I do just a normal CAD line, we'll go ahead and create a quick line string here, just off to the side. Because they're dynamic, is if I was to come in and label those, and you can control the spacing and everything of that line. So, but now, if I close this, if I edit this grip, you'll notice it moves that dimension with it. Okay. Now, the other thing I can do with this, which is quite unique, is I also have label tables. So again, you have the ability to come in and create your table style for lines, points, and polygons, and then you label the lines, points, or polygons. So if I create a line table, it's going to ask for a title, so I'll just say slope of line. I'm just going to pick this one. And the reason I'm doing a slope of line, because now I have the ability to label this option. So if I pick the location for the table, I'm going to drop it in over there, then it says select segment. So now I can come down here and I can start picking those segments, and you can see that it labels it with a tag. And if you come up here, it's showing not only the length, azimuth, but also the slope. So I can see the individual slope of that line and have it labeled in my drawing. So there's a bunch of different things you can do. You can change the format, the curve settings, so on and so forth. You can select multiple lines. You don't have to do one at a time, but you can do multiple lines. So a lot of new features there inside of Business Center. So hopefully you kind of see where Business Center is headed. It's got a lot of great functionality. That's just a small sampling of some of the new features. We'll create some more videos and put those out to you as well.